Look down at your hands right now. Turn them palm up and look closely at the creases near your wrists. If you press gently on the inside of your wrist and feel a faint flutter, that's your radial artery carrying oxygen-rich blood from your heart to every fingertip. Now imagine that pathway narrowing, thickening, becoming less flexible with every passing year. That flutter you just felt? For millions of Americans over 50, it's growing weaker, and most don't realize it until something far more serious happens. Here's what doctors often don't tell you during a rushed 10-minute appointment. When your arteries begin to narrow and stiffen, your body doesn't send you an email notification. There's no blinking red light on your dashboard. Instead, it whispers. It sends subtle signals that most people dismiss as normal aging or stress or just being tired. And by the time those whispers become screams, you might find yourself in an emergency room wondering why you didn't pay attention sooner. But here's the part that might surprise you. There's a remarkably simple two-ingredient combination that people have been using for generations to support their cardiovascular system, and it's probably sitting in your kitchen right now. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to use it, but first, you need to understand what's actually happening inside your arteries and why your body might be trying to get your attention. Before we go further, if you're someone who wants to understand how your body works and what you can do to support it naturally as you age, this channel is designed specifically for you. We focus on practical, research-backed approaches to wellness that respect both traditional wisdom and modern understanding. Consider subscribing so you don't miss future discussions that might help you make more informed choices about your health. So let's talk about what's really happening when your arteries start to struggle. Think about your kitchen sink for a moment. When you first move into a home, water flows freely through those pipes. Fast, clean, efficient. But over the years, mineral deposits begin to form along the inner walls. Soap scum builds up. Small particles catch and accumulate. Eventually, the water that once flowed easily now struggles to pass through a narrower opening. The pressure increases because the same volume of water is trying to move through a smaller space. Your arteries can face a similar challenge, except instead of mineral deposits, they may be dealing with a buildup of cholesterol, calcium, inflammatory cells, and other substances that form what's commonly called plaque. Now here's where this gets personal for many people watching this. As these deposits accumulate over time, they don't just narrow the passageway, they also make the artery walls less flexible, less able to expand and contract with each heartbeat the way they did when you were younger. This process is often associated with a condition called atherosclerosis, and research suggests it can begin developing years or even decades before you notice any symptoms. The challenge is that your body might be sending you signals right now, today, but you might be interpreting them as something else entirely. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. Have you noticed that climbing a flight of stairs leaves you more winded than it used to? Not drastically, just enough that you pause at the top and take an extra breath? That's often one of the earliest signs that your cardiovascular system may be working harder than it should. When your arteries narrow, your heart has to pump more forcefully to push blood through those tighter spaces. It's like trying to water your garden through a kinked hose. The water still comes out, but the pressure has to increase, and the whole system works harder. Over time, that extra effort can leave you feeling fatigued in ways you can't quite explain. Some people notice coldness in their extremities, particularly their feet and hands. If you find yourself wearing socks to bed even in moderate weather, or if your fingers feel unusually cool when you touch your face, that may be linked to reduced blood flow. When arteries narrow, the blood supply to your furthest points can become compromised. Your body is remarkably intelligent. It prioritizes vital organs, which means your hands and feet might receive less circulation when the system is under stress. Then there's something that catches many people off guard. difficulty concentrating, or episodes of fuzzy thinking that seem to come and go. Your brain uses approximately 20% of your body's oxygen supply, despite being only about 2% of your body weight. When blood flow becomes restricted, even slightly, cognitive function can be affected. You might walk into a room and forget why you went there. You might struggle to find a word that's normally right at the tip of your tongue. Most people blame this on age or stress, and while those factors can play a role, reduced cerebral blood flow is also considered a possible contributing factor that's worth discussing with a healthcare provider. Now I want to address something that's been discussed increasingly in medical literature over the past few decades, though it remains somewhat controversial and should never be used for self-diagnosis. There's a visible sign that some researchers have observed in connection with cardiovascular concerns, and it appears on a place you probably wouldn't expect, your earlobe. It's called Frank's sign, named after the doctor who first described it in the 1970s. It's a diagonal crease that runs from the bottom of the ear opening down toward the edge of the earlobe at roughly a 45-degree angle. Multiple studies have found a statistical association between this crease and increased cardiovascular risk, though it's important to understand that correlation is not the same as causation. Not everyone with this crease has heart problems, and not everyone with heart problems has this crease. Some researchers believe it may be related to the breakdown of elastin and collagen fibers, processes that can occur both in aging skin and in arterial walls. Others suggest it might be linked to reduced microcirculation in the earlobe that mirrors reduced circulation elsewhere. The presence of this crease is simply something that might be worth mentioning during a conversation with your doctor, particularly if you have other risk factors or symptoms. It's a discussion point, not a diagnosis. Let me ask you a question, and feel free to share your experience in the comments below. Have you or someone you know ever ignored subtle warning signs because they seemed too minor to worry about, only to wish later that you'd paid attention sooner? I think many of us have been there. We're conditioned to push through discomfort, to not make a fuss, to assume everything is probably fine. And most of the time, it is fine. But when it comes to cardiovascular health, those subtle signals can be your body's way of asking for support before a small problem becomes a larger one. Here's where we shift from concern to possibility. Your body has remarkable capacity to support and maintain itself when given the right conditions. The cardiovascular system is dynamic, not static. Research suggests that arterial health can be influenced by lifestyle choices, dietary habits, and certain compounds that may help the body create a healthier internal environment over time. This is where that two-ingredient combination I mentioned earlier comes into the picture, and I want to be very clear about what I'm describing here. This is not a prescription. This is not a replacement for medical care. This is a traditional practice that many people have incorporated into their daily routine based on the belief that it may support cardiovascular function through natural mechanisms. The combination is elegantly simple. Extra virgin olive oil and fresh lemon juice. That's it. These two ingredients have been staples of Mediterranean diets for thousands of years, and populations in that region have long been noted for their cardiovascular health profiles. Now, is this combination going to dissolve arterial plaque overnight or unclog your arteries by morning? Absolutely not. Anyone who makes that claim is being irresponsible and potentially dangerous. What this combination may do when used consistently over time as part of a broader health-focused lifestyle is support your body's natural processes related to cardiovascular function. Let's talk about why people believe this works, starting with extra virgin olive oil. High-quality olive oil contains compounds called polyphenols, which research suggests may have properties that support healthy inflammation responses in the body. Chronic inflammation is believed to play a role in the development of arterial plaque, so substances that help manage inflammation are often considered beneficial. Olive oil also contains monounsaturated fats, particularly oleic acid, which some studies have associated with improved cholesterol profiles. The idea is not that olive oil strips plaque away like some kind of internal solvent, but rather that it may help create conditions that support arterial health over the long term. Fresh lemon juice brings its own potential benefits to this combination. Lemons are rich in vitamin C, an antioxidant that research suggests may help protect the endothelium, which is the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels. A healthy endothelium is associated with better vascular function and flexibility. Lemon juice also contains compounds that some preliminary research has linked to supporting the body's natural waste removal processes. Again, this is not about dramatically flushing or cleaning anything overnight. It's about potentially supporting the body's existing mechanisms for maintaining balance and health. So, if you're interested in trying this approach, here's how people typically prepare and use it. You want to use genuine extra virgin olive oil, not refined or light olive oil. Look for oil that's cold-pressed and ideally comes in a dark glass bottle to protect it from light damage. For the lemon, use a fresh lemon each time rather than bottled juice, as fresh juice contains more of the beneficial compounds and hasn't been exposed to processing or preservatives that might reduce its effectiveness. The typical approach is to mix 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil with the juice of half a fresh lemon, which is usually about 1 to 2 tablespoons of juice. You can adjust these proportions slightly based on your taste preferences, but that's the general ratio people use. Some individuals take this mixture first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, waiting about 20 to 30 minutes before eating breakfast. The reasoning is that an empty stomach may allow for better absorption of the beneficial compounds. Others prefer taking it in the evening. There's no definitive research showing one time is superior to another, so personal preference and what feels right for your body should guide you. When you first taste this combination, be prepared. It's tangy, slightly bitter, and takes some getting used to for most people. Some folks mix it with a small amount of warm water to make it more palatable. Others add a tiny bit of raw honey, though purists prefer to keep it simple with just the oil and lemon. The key is consistency rather than perfection. This is something you'd incorporate into your routine daily, viewing it as a long-term practice rather than a quick fix. Now, I want to be transparent about realistic expectations. If you decide to try this, you're not going to feel dramatically different tomorrow morning. You're not going to suddenly run a marathon next week. What you might notice if you maintain this practice for several weeks or months alongside other healthy choices is a gradual sense of improved energy, perhaps better circulation as evidenced by warmer extremities, possibly easier breathing during physical activity. These changes, if they occur, happen slowly as your body responds to consistent support rather than through any dramatic overnight transformation. It's also worth mentioning that this practice is generally considered safe for most people, but there are some considerations. If you're on blood-thinning medications, you should absolutely discuss this with your doctor first, as both olive oil and lemon can have mild effects on blood properties that might interact with such medications. If you have gastroesophageal reflux or a sensitive stomach, the acidity of lemon juice might cause discomfort for some individuals. And if you're allergic to olives or citrus, obviously this combination wouldn't be appropriate for you. This is why any dietary change, even one that seems simple and natural, deserves a conversation with a healthcare provider who knows your complete medical history. Let me also emphasize that this 2-ingredient practice works best when it's part of a comprehensive approach to cardiovascular health. It's not a replacement for physical activity, stress management, adequate sleep, or a diet rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and lean proteins. Think of it as one tool in a larger toolkit, not a magic solution that allows you to ignore other important health factors. The people who seem to benefit most from traditional practices like this are those who view them as part of an overall commitment to taking care of their bodies, rather than as isolated interventions. So here's what we've covered today. Your arteries may be sending you subtle signals that deserve attention, signals that range from fatigue and cold extremities to cognitive changes, and even visible signs like earlobe creases. These signals don't necessarily mean something is drastically wrong, but they might indicate that your cardiovascular system would benefit from additional support. That support can come in many forms, and one traditional approach that some people find helpful is a daily combination of extra virgin olive oil and fresh lemon juice, taken consistently over time with realistic expectations about gradual rather than immediate benefits. Remember, your body is constantly working to maintain balance and health. Sometimes it just needs consistent, gentle support and the time to respond. Take care of yourself, pay attention to those subtle signals, and never hesitate to have open conversations with healthcare providers about any concerns or changes you notice. I'll see you in the next video.